What's up, ComSci community? If you're a college student like me, then you probably just have so much cash you don't even know what to do with it all. So today we're going to build a simple banking application using Java, so let's jump right in. Alright, so here we are in the actual application. You can see that it's made up of two classes. This firstbank.java, which is like the main class, and this is where we're going to run the main method. And then we have the account.java, which is the actual account object that we're going to create. But before we actually look into any of this code, the first thing that I want to do is run this program so you can understand how everything works and you know what exactly we're going to be making during this tutorial. So let's run it. And you can see that we're greeted with this welcome message, welcome Tim Statler, and it gives us our ID, and it asks us what would we like to do, and we have these options here. So A, we can check our balance, B, we can make a deposit, C, make a withdrawal, D, we can view our previous transaction, E, we can calculate interest from the money that we have in our account, or F, we can just exit the application. Then it allows us to actually enter one of these options. So the first thing that I want to do is actually check the balance. So I'm going to hit A. It tells us that we have a $0 balance, and I don't know about you guys, but I don't really like having a $0 balance. So I'm going to go and press B to make a deposit. How much would I like to deposit? I'm just going to say like 50 grand because, I mean, who doesn't want to deposit 50 grand in their account? Now I want to just make sure that the 50 grand that we just put in there actually hit the account. So I want to view the previous transaction, which is D. And it tells us that we did deposit $50,000. So I actually have to pay for my semester now for school. So I want to make a withdrawal, and I want to withdraw about $7,500. So I'm going to press C to make that withdrawal, and then I'm going to specify the amount. And now I want to make sure, I want to see how much money I have left in my account. So I'm going to press A. And it tells me that I do have a balance of $42,500, which is correct. That's what we should have. And now I don't want to spend any more of this money. I want to keep it in there and earn as much money as I can. So I want to calculate the interest. And it asks me how many years of interest I want to look for. So let's see how much money we'll have after 10 years. Okay, so it says the current interest rate is about 1.85%. And it says after 10 years, our balance will be actually over $50,000 now. So that's not too bad. If we just let our money sit in there, it'll actually make us more money. And we've done pretty much everything on here. We've checked our balance, we've made a deposit, made a withdrawal, viewed our previous transaction, we've calculated interest. So let's go ahead and just exit now. And it tells us, thank you for banking with us. It gives us a nice little exit message. So this is actually the application in its entirety. It's not anything groundbreaking, but it's definitely a great application to get started with object-oriented programming. So that's pretty much it. So let's jump right in and let's look at some of this code. So like I said, this is going to be the main class with the main method inside of it. I named it First Bank because, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but a lot of banks, they like to name themselves First Bank of something, First Central Bank, First Midwest Bank. It's kind of funny. It's almost like the people in the comment section. Anyway, so this is the actual object that we're going to make. It's an account object. So imagine if you go into this bank called First Bank and you want to interact with your account. The account is the actual object. Okay. So we need input from the user in order to specify which functions they want to interact with, whether they want to withdraw, deposit, check their interest. So the first thing that we're going to do is import this Java util scanner, and that's going to allow for user input. And we have our class here called account. And the first thing that we're going to do inside of this class is we're going to make a few variables. We're going to make an int variable called balance, an int variable called previous transaction, a string variable called customer name, and a string variable called customer ID. And we're going to use these all throughout the class down here. The next thing that we want to do is create this class constructor. And to create a constructor, you just first type the name of the class here. This is the account class. And then you want to specify which variables you want created in the constructor when you create a new object, when you instantiate a new object. So we're only going to have two. We're going to have CName and CID, which is customer name and customer ID. And you see these two variables here, customer name and customer ID equals CNAME and CID. So when we go to actually create a new object, these are going to be inputs, and we can actually look at that right now. So this is an object that we're going to create in the main class. This is the type of object, the object of type account. This is the name. I'm naming it Tim, which is just my name. You can name this whatever you want. And then new object of type account. And now we're actually feeding these string variables into it, and that's what we see here. So the first one is Tim Statler, the name, the CNAME, and this one is CID. And you can see that these are in the exact order specified here. So string CNAME, string CID, and then it takes these and it sets it equal to customer name and customer ID that we're going to again use throughout the program. So as soon as we instantiate this object, we already give it this information. So let's go back to the account object and let's look at some of the functions. This first function that we're looking at is the function for depositing money. So whenever you call the function deposit, we're going to specify a specific amount also. So that's what this int amount is. This is going to be the amount that we're actually depositing. And it says that if the amount is not equal to 0, because if the amount is equal to 0, there's nothing we have to do. And that's why there's nothing after this if statement, no else, right? So just if the account is not, or the amount is not equal to 0, then we say the current balance equals the current balance plus this amount. And now we're setting previous transaction variable that we started up here. Now we're setting that equal to amount. Okay. So next we have the function for withdrawing money, and again, when we call this withdraw function, we're going to give it a certain amount. So that's what this is here. And pretty much the same thing. It says if the amount is not equal to 0, we're going to do this. Otherwise, we're just not going to do anything. So if amount is actually some amount that's not 0, then we're going to say balance equals balance minus amount. So we're just subtracting this amount from the balance because we're withdrawing it. And now we're setting the previous transaction variable equal to the negative amount, because when you specify an amount to withdraw, you're going to say withdraw $1,000. But this sets that 1,000 equal to a negative amount because we're withdrawing it. So we withdrew $1,000. So that's why we place this negative sign here. So this is the function for showing the previous transaction. We just call it get previous transaction, and it doesn't take any inputs. And all it does is go through this series of if, and else statements, and it tests whether the previous transaction is greater than 0, whether it's less than 0, or whether it's neither, which would make it exactly 0, and then it just says that no transaction occurred. So if the previous transaction is greater than 0, that means we deposited something. So it says that we deposited, and then it shows the previous transaction. So we deposited $1,000. Or if the previous transaction is less than 0, then we state that we withdrew or withdrawn the previous transaction. And then, like I stated before, the else just says that nothing happened because the previous transaction is equal to 0. The next function that we have calculates the interest. So this is really simple. It just does a little bit of math here. It's called calculate interest, and you feed it one variable of years. So it's going to ask you how many years of interest do you want to calculate. So we have a double called interest rate, which we set to 1.85% interest rate. And we have a double variable called new balance, not like the shoe, like the actual account balance. And that's just the balance times the interest rate times the number of years. And then that's going to be added to the current balance. And then we just give this output here. It says the current interest rate is, and then it's 100 times the interest rate, because this interest rate, this is the decimal version of the percentage. So we have to multiply that by 100 to get the actual interest rate. And then we just have some output here. It says the current interest rate is, and then we concatenate this part here. So we have to convert that by multiplying it times 100. And then we just concatenate a percentage sign at the end of it for formatting's sake. And then the last one just says after years, number of years, your balance will be, and it presents a new balance to us. And now we have the big boy. This is the function that shows the main menu. In this function show menu, this is going to be like the main function that we're dealing with, and this calls on the other functions that we've built thus far. So in the show menu, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create this variable called option, which is how we choose between these different options of A, B, C, D, E, and F. And obviously that's going to be of type char for character. And we're just giving it this placeholder variable. Don't pay this too much mind. So now we want to actually create a scanner object in here because we're going to be asking for user input at this point. And we display the first welcome message, welcome plus customer name. Your ID is plus customer ID. And I just use a print line statement here to kind of separate this, give it a little bit of spacing, and then it asks you what would you like to do, and it gives you your options. So after we show this menu and we want to give the user the option of choosing between one of these items here, from A through F, we actually put all of this inside of a switch statement inside of a do while loop. So the first thing in this do while loop is print a line, enter an option, and now I made a new variable called option1 that is going to work with option here. So it's of type char, just like the other option variable is, and this is actually what we're going to use to take in the next character. So whatever they type in, it could be an entire word, but we're only going to take the first character. So if they type in apple, it's going to take just the A, and it's going to check their balance. But the reason I made these two variables of option 1 and then the original option is because I wanted to give users the opportunity to enter either an uppercase A or lowercase a, or really any of these letters in upper or lowercase without returning some sort of error. Because I feel like that's what users are more than likely to do. That's what I like to do. I don't like to have to capitalize all my options. It's just another step. I don't want to have to hit the shift button. I'm lazy. As a user, I mean, I think a lot of users are going to be, no offense, I think they're going to be pretty lazy. Like, who really wants to do that? Anyway, rant over. Okay, so now we have this switch statement, and it takes in one variable of option, and each case inside of option is going to be one of these letters, A, B, C, D, E, or F. And like I said, you know, it just uses the uppercase version, and that's why we're converting whatever they give us into an uppercase so that we don't run into any issues. So we have case A, and case A, just like you would imagine, this checks the balance. Case B allows the user to make a deposit, C, make a withdrawal, D, view previous transaction, E, calculate interest, and F, we can actually exit. So let's start at the top. Let's look at case A. Case A allows the user to check their balance. So we just have a couple print statements, and this one just says balance equals plus balance. We just do a little concatenation, and then we break. So case B allows the user to deposit money. So we have this print statement, enter the amount to deposit. And now again we have this scanner next int. So we create a new int called amount, and we save the next int that is inputted by the user. And now we can call the deposit function with this amount. And then we just print another line, and then we break, and that's it. So case C allows the user to withdraw money. So we have a print statement prompting them to enter an amount to withdraw. We save this into amount2, and then we call withdraw with this variable called amount2. We print another line, and then we break. Case D allows the user to view their most recent transaction. So we just have a couple print lines here for formatting. We call the get previous transaction function, and then that's it. We just break and move on to the next case. So case E calculates the accrued interest. We have another prompt asking for a number of years that they would like to calculate. We save it into integer years, and then we calculate the interest given this variable right here, and then we break. Case F exits the user from their account, and then we have the end of the do while loop, which is the while option not equal to F. So now it's saying that when we choose this option, now we actually break out of this while loop. The first thing that we're going to do is print this line, like we have previously, just for formatting reasons. And then below this line, we're going to print thank you for banking with us. And you saw all of that when we went through the program before. We print the line, and it says thank you for banking with us. And then we, of course, have the default case, which is if the user enters any sort of invalid input, and we also explain to them how they can enter valid input that actually works with the program. So that's pretty much it. And now that the entire account class is created, we can make a new instance of this object. So we already saw that when I created this first instance of this object of type account. I named it Tim, created a new account, and I gave it these inputs. And then you call it by saying Tim, which is the name of the account, and then we call this function which is the main function that allows us to actually access the other functions. So let's create a new one. Let's say account Beyonce, because that's my cat's name. So we're going to create a new account for Beyonce, the cat, not the singer. So now that we created a new instance of this object and we've named it Beyonce, now we can actually call on it. And let's run this and see how it runs. Okay, so it says welcome Beyonce, your ID is B00002, what would you like to do? It gives us all these options again, and now we can enter them, check your balance. So we can see that now we have a whole new account, we have a 0 balance, a new name, a new ID. So that's how you actually call on this object and start using it. So that's pretty much it. I hope you guys liked this whole tutorial. I know it's kind of brief, kind of simple, but I think it's a great way to start learning object-oriented programming. It's not overwhelming where you have to build like 5 different objects. It's just a single object, you call it, it's nice and simple, and that's really it. So if you guys like this and you want more tutorials like this, definitely give this video a like and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for joining us today, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care.